Good evening, y'all. We are live once again. Give people a chance to stream in here. And then we'll talk about tonight's subject matter. Tonight's subject matter is President-elect Trump's cabinet continues to grow. So today, he has named Elise Stefanik actually, he did this yesterday, for ambassador to the UN. Today, he announced former Governor Mike Huckabee as ambassador to Israel. He named John Ratcliffe as director of the CIA. He named Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense. I have a lot to say about that. And there's been some others. He named his White House counsel. The guy I'm not familiar with. I really think that Tulsi Gabbard deserved to be Secretary of Defense. Now, that being said, I like Pete Hegseth. And Pete Hegseth comes from the military. He's a current journalist for Fox News. But Tulsi Gabbard is a current lieutenant colonel in the Air National Guard. She's a former congresswoman from Hawaii, a former Democrat. She loves her men and women in the military. She gave a passion speech yesterday over what Veterans Day means to her. And she talked about that one of her comrades, someone she knew personally, was, killed on the battlefield, and how that just tore her apart to hear her friend's name called at roll call 3 times and no response from her, how that just tore her up inside. And it shows how much she really cares about veterans and about people in the military in general. Now, I think that Pete Hegseth will do a good job. I really do. And John Ratcliffe, this is an interesting thing. Up until 2 hours before Ratcliffe was named as director of the CIA, everything was pointing that Kash Patel would be named director of the CIA. And then at the last minute, Kash Patel's name was pulled back and John Ratcliffe was named. Marco Rubio has been named Secretary of State. Now, here's an interesting thing. Last night, when I was reading about this, they said, and this is how fluid things change. They said that Marco Rubio was going to be Secretary of State, that Ron DeSantis was going to nominate himself as the replacement senator, and leave Lieutenant Governor Nunez as governor of Florida. Well, that all changed today. Now it looks like Laura Trump is going to be the replacement senator, which I think that would be a great thing. There was also talk that DeSantis would name a placeholder senator and make it Ashley Moody, which is the current attorney general in the state of Florida. I like Ashley Moody, but pulling out your good attorney general for, you know, no. What, see, what President Trump is doing, he's taking high quality, smart, competent people, and he's putting them in positions where they will excel, where they will do well. Pete Hegseth is a veteran. He's a journalist at Fox News, and he's always talking about how much he loves the veterans. And I kind of saw him maybe as, you know, Secretary of the VA, which is an important position. But I wanted Tulsi to be Secretary of Defense because she's currently a lieutenant colonel in the Air National Guard. She flies a helicopter. And I just saw her as the logical choice. But Trump being Trump, he chose Pete Hegseth, and I'm fine with that. Elise Stefanik, she'll do good as ambassador to the UN. The positions that he's pulling them out of, he's being strategic. Like Florida, the governor nominates a replacement, and DeSantis being a do the people being replaced train them, and or are there detailed training manuals? No. See, how it works in government is the outgoing team meets with the incoming team. Each person that's being nominated as like Secretary of Defense. Well, Pete Hegseth will start meeting with Lloyd Austin. He will start sitting in on different things as time goes forward, because it's not ever a cold, well, here you are, green under the skin, hit the ground running, hope you fall on your face. No. Over the next month, see, this is why it's important that he name all of his secretaries, because the secretaries that he names for the next month have to start meeting with the outgoing secretaries and view their policies and, you know, regulations and stuff, so that they know starting on day one, on January 20th, here's what we need to do. Here's what we need to change. This is what we can leave the same, which granted, I think that they will all say, yeah, this all gets trashed. But that's just me. Kash Patel, I really think Kash Patel would have done Hey, American Nana, welcome. You're free, you're you're welcome to ask questions. I will answer your questions. This is kind of a back and forth where I let the chat ask questions and I talk about I answer the question and then we talk. Um, the like I was telling Zach, the current list of secretaries is just breathtaking. The people that he's putting in office, you know, like he announced just this evening, Pete Hegseth is going to be Secretary of Defense, which I like Pete Hegseth, but I really feel that Tulsi deserved that because Tulsi cares about veterans. She cares about members of her military team. She's a current lieutenant colonel in the Air National Guard. She leads a squadron from Oklahoma. And there's a video that was released of hers yesterday of her feelings on Veterans Day. And if that doesn't make you cry, something fucking wrong with you. She talks about how that her best friend in the military got killed on the battlefield and how that she had to stand there when they did roll call and listen to her friend's name get get called 3 times and listen to their no response 3 times. And it's just heartbreaking because she wells up in tears. It shows you how much she really cares about members of the military. And she did a speech a week ago where she just blasted Kamala for sending the members of her military, her friends, off to these um, endless wars and using them as cannon fodder. And she got really ticked off and she said, "How dare you send my friends in the military off to be cannon fodder? How dare you?" And I said, "Yeah, that needs to be your Secretary of Defense because she cares about the people under her. She cares about veterans and she would be hesitant to send them off into these foreign wars. She would be more along the lines of what we used to call go in, win, come home." And um, the interesting thing is about between Cash Patel and John Ratcliffe, I like them both. I think they're both really smart lawyers, but Cash Patel tends to run his mouth too much. And John Radcliffe, he was Trump's director of national intelligence. And he keep does what we used to call keeps his powder dry. He doesn't run off at the mouth. He doesn't do copious interviews before he has the facts. He just is a very reserved, very laid back kind of person. But don't take him off because he will steamroll you if you take him off. I used to watch him in House hearings, and I used to say he's going to go somewhere. Also, for those of us that like Lee Zeldin, today Lee Zeldin was named director of the EPA. How cool is that? Lee Zeldin as director of the EPA. I think that's a win-win for us. His cabinet is really taking shape, and it's going to be um, um, Cash was I think deputy director. I want to say he was a deputy director at the FBI under Trump. That might not be right. Let me look it up real quick. Okay, Cash has worked as a senior aide to Devin Nunes. He was a counterterrorism advisor, a chief of staff to the acting defense secretary. um, Elise Stefanik was named ambassador to the UN. That came out yesterday. Um, the his White House counsel. This threw me. Some guy. I have to look this up. Uh, my fingers could spell what my brain is saying. Right. See, John Ratcliffe has been here a very long time. He was Trump's DNI, Director for National Intelligence. Before that, he was a congressman on the um, Justice Committee. I want to look this up because this is Trump's White House counsel. This is important. No, that's oh, and guess who he named as director of DHS? Kristi Noem. I am definitely in favor of that because she's very much well liked in South Dakota. And she was the first governor when Texas was having problems at the border to send her National Guard to Texas to the border and said, go help your fellow patriots. Okay, guy named as the new White House counsel is William McGinley. I do not know him. Yeah. And see, that's one of the things um, that people like Mark Cuban can now not argue with is Trump is naming good, strong, independent women for his cabinet. He named Susie Wiles, which I did some research on Susie Wiles as his chief of staff. Susie Wiles is Pat Summerall's daughter. Susie Wiles is responsible for taking Florida from being a purple state and making it a red state. That's who Susie Wiles is. She likes to operate in the background, doesn't like the limelight, which that's a perfect position. Yeah, he hangs with the view creatures. Yeah, that's right. I've never liked Mark Cuban. You know, I watched Shark Tank and I watch how he treats his other members on Shark Tank. I just don't like him, how he has petty nicknames for all of them. And so let's go to Truth Social. Yeah, we talked about Kristi Noem for DHS. Oops. Here's her background. She's not from a border state. Of course not. She's from North Dakota. She's a rancher. Yeah. Susie is supposed to be a great person, which from everything that I've read about her, says that she's a strong, independent woman who single-handedly turned Florida from a purple state into a red state. So yeah, of course, we want her on our side. And something that I find really funny is at first she was the campaign manager for Ron DeSantis. And when she saw things going south for him and he wasn't willing to change, she jumped ship and went over to Trump. I think that's interesting. There's a little more here. I'm not used to being on Truth Social a lot. I think of Mike Pompeo. Christie was Trump's first choice as VP, but in her book, she talked a lot about killing her dog. Yes. Now, I live in eastern Montana, so I know the backstory on the killing of her dog. Don't believe what the press tells you. Her dog was 14 or 15 months old but it was vicious. It was mean. It bit 3 or 4 members of her family. She hired 4 different trainers. It bit all 4 trainers. And her being a rancher, she's tough. I will give her that much, because when it came down to put the dog down herself, put the dog down rather, she did it herself. She didn't, take it into the vet, let the vet do it and walk away. No, she did it herself. She had the cojones to do the job herself. And that does not get talked about on the mainstream news at all. They will tell you she killed her puppy. No, that is not what happened. She didn't just walk out there and kill her puppy. She tried to get it training. After it bit 4 members of her family, bit all 4 trainers, then she said enough. And that's what really happened, which the news media will never talk about. And here's an interesting tidbit on the news media. I don't know why she included it in her book, but I would venture to say that it was probably that. See, when a lot of these politicians write a book, they don't write it themselves. They have what's called a ghostwriter write it for them, and the person will follow them around and will write the book, and then it's up to her to read through the manuscript. And her being a rancher, she probably thought nothing of it, because ranchers are known for taking things into their own hands. Right. You got to do what's necessary. Yeah, Mike Pompeo is the one who talked trash about Donald Trump just this last spring, and said that the JFK files should not be released, and this and that and the other. And, you know, talked himself out of a position, which I never liked Pompeo. Just something about him just rubbed me wrong. I don't know if it's because people put all kinds of things in their books. It's part of their life history. Yeah. Yeah. Pompeo wanted Julian Assange dead, which I'm not for that. Yeah, Julian Assange did bad things, but the way he's been treated is just awful. You know, we need to get away from this, you know, kill your enemy kind of stuff. That's what I call it. While in retrospect to how Trump has been treated, there needs to be some recompense. There needs to be people take into account. Yeah. I like Julian for opening people's eyes, but it was his methods of how he did it that I didn't like. We had people on the battlefield, and Snowden leaked the locations of our troops to Julian, and Julian printed it. I don't like that. If you want to talk about, things that our troops are doing that you don't like, if you find out about it today, you wait a couple of days or even a week so that the troops are out of that battlefield so that you're not putting them in jeopardy. Yeah, we should not be putting our troops in jeopardy needlessly. I'm not a big one of top secret stuff for everything, but certain things like troop locations, when you're at war, you don't want the other side finding out where your troops are at. So that tho- that's what they call sources and methods. You don't dox your source and you don't dox your method, which Snowden was willing to do. He was willing to tell the world where all of our troops were located and what they were doing and how that he thought that it was illegal. And I just see so much good happening in just a week since Trump became president-elect. I never thought I would ever see the day that Vladimir Putin would say, I want peace. That um, Zelensky in Ukraine would say, I want peace. That I did like this. I thought this was really cool. Last Wednesday, Trump called the leader of Hamas and told him, you have until January 20th to release all the hostages. Click, hung up the phone. The next day, the leader of Iran said, yeah, we don't want to be at war with Israel. We think we should work on the release of the hostages. I thought, yes, yes. The adults are back in charge, right? But I think that Tulsi will play a integral, important part of the Trump administration. See, there's positions within the White House that Trump can fill that don't need Senate approval. Like he can make her what's called counselor to the president. Um, he's going to create a whole new department. This I thought was huge that came out yesterday. There's been talks of him putting Elon in charge somewhere and this and that. Yesterday it came out he's creating a whole new department called the Department of Government Efficiency, and Elon's going to be in charge. I kind of thought it would be cool to have Elon as Secretary of Transportation. I have a friend named Steph that lives in Appalachia up by Pennsylvania, right on the Monongahela River. You know, my sister lives in eastern North Carolina, and when Hurricane Helene hit, I was just so worried because I don't want my sister to be, devastated by a hurricane. And southwest corner rock. Oh, you know where Eagle's Nest is at, right? I used to drive a truck, and I used to cut across from Kentucky, across West Virginia, through not Eagle's Nest, through Hawk's Nest. That was some of the most fun driving I ever did. Get to scare the crap out of people coming down them switchbacks with a 48-foot trailer. That was fun. Oh, okay. You know, I live in eastern Montana, and people here were up in arms about people moving out of California, moving to here to Montana. What come out this election is that the conservatives from California got fed up with their BS and moved here and voted. I think this is probably the most Republican state that we have. Um, Now everybody was saying, "Oh, Tester's going to win," and I said, "Bullshit. Tester's a Democrat. He voted with Joe 95% of the time. This state hates Democrats." Sheehy, who I supported, who Tester tried to paint as an outsider, he's been in the state for 10 years. Him and his wife are veterans. The interesting thing, what happened this summer that put me strongly in Sheehy's corner, okay, she owns Aero Firefighting. It's AERO. And Aero Firefighting, what they do is they go up in the mountains when there's wildfires, and they drop in firefighters behind the fire line. That's what Tim Sheehy does. That's what his business does. We had a series of firefighters around my town this last summer, and Tim Sheehy came twice a month all summer long to tell us, do this, don't do this, fight the fire this way, don't do that. And John Tester, our sitting senator, came once back in May for a fundraiser, never came back. That did me in with him. Here we are, a small town. We have like 3,000 or 4,000 people in eastern Montana, and our fire department was fighting wildfires, and our sitting senator doesn't come and check and see how they're doing. That was a big red flag for me. So I voted for Sheehy, and I can only hope that everything goes as planned, you know. We live where I live at in eastern Montana. I live in Miles City, and Miles City is in Custer County, and this area is called the High Plains Desert. So it gets hot in the summertime, but it gets cold in the wintertime. It gets, last January, we had temps minus 40, minus 45 actual temperature. So that was really interesting. Last winter was my first winter here. I love it here in the summertime. You know, we have We have cold and snow here. Hold on for a second. I got to let the dog out. Be right back. Come on. Come on, buddy. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on, go potty. All right, I'm back. This is about the time of the night. He goes out. Yeah, I'm going to have to find somebody to shovel my snow. Um, I had surgery on my neck. Well, actually, you can see the scar right here. They took out 3 discs in my neck and put in synthetic disc replacement material and then put plates and screws. And so now I'm on a 15-pound weight restriction for the next 3 months. Yeah, my dog's a character. He just turned a year old last month. He weighs 95 pounds. Yeah, I gotta order me a new winter jacket because I usually wear the Carhartt type jackets, the zip up, but they leave your neck exposed. He's 3/4 Bernese Mountain Dog and 25% Standard Poodle, and he is the best dog. His name is Apollo. He's the best dog. He don't bark. He don't growl. When he wants to go outside, where I'm sitting at facing the hallway to the back door is right across from the camera. He will come and sit there and he will look at me and look out the window. And if I don't pay attention to him right away, he starts this, but that's all he does. He doesn't bark or growl or anything. And if I'm sleeping at night, he will come and take his head and smack it against my leg in bed to wake me up. And then once I'm awake and I look at him, he will sit by my bed. And I'll tell him, okay, go to the door. He goes right and sits by the door, waits for me to come. Yeah. He is called a F1B reverse Bernie Doodle. The regular Bernie Doodles look like a poodle, and you have to take them to the groomer all the time. And I wanted a big dog because I have walking issues, and he's going to be my service dog. He's actually certified for it, but I'm working on his training, and so he needs to be a big dog, a stout dog that if I stumble, he can just, balance me. Yeah. And me and the me and the breeder went round and round. I told him up front that I was a veteran, that I was on a fixed income. He said, okay, I'll take payments. The second payment, he called me the next day and demanded full payment. And so I'm working on some new ideas for the channel. I use StreamYard as my streaming software, and I'm supposed to be able to um, different things and show text messages and video clips. And I really need to learn how to do that so that I can take my channel to the next level. You know, like all right, I'm back. I don't know why this does this. This is the third live stream in a row that it did that. Zach was here for the last two of them. But we're on 46 minutes here, 47 now. So I'm going to bring this to an end. See if we can bring this boat into the harbor, so to speak. And I'll be live again, probably tomorrow, probably the same time. Research some more stuff. And we will see you then. Thanks, Zach, and thanks, American Nana. Tell your friends to come and check us out. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye now.